Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 43, recording this on Thursday evening. You guys will probably be listening to it on Friday morning or Friday afternoon or Saturday or whenever the heck you're doing it. Appreciate you guys being here. If this is your first time, welcome. We talk a lot about the Vikings here. Really enjoy doing it. My day job is covering this team for The Athletic and theathletic.com. You can find the stories that I write almost every single day over at the website. On Monday, did something on Cam Bynum and his celebrations. On Thursday, did something talking to Bill Cowher, who has become kind of a confidant for Kevin O'Connell. So I think you guys will enjoy some of those stories. Go check those out on the website. Do a couple episodes of this podcast a week. So if you're new, like I said, just hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, you can hit the follow and get future episodes, and we would really appreciate you doing that. The show is presented by member FDIC Bank, First Resource Bank. They are a local bank, ton of branches around the Minneapolis area. They have one in Lino Lakes, whichever one it is. I don't really know. They've got one kind of down near the North Loop, which I go to frequently, and just really great for banking. The people over there, a ton of Vikings fans, Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, Charlie Anderson, love talking about the team. So not only can you get a phenomenal bank that has great online banking and quick access, debit card, all that stuff, but you can do it with some Vikings fans. So why would you not do that? On today's episode, I've got a recurring guest. His name is Pete Bercich. You guys probably know him from his commentating the games with Paul Allen. As the analyst, he does some stuff for Vikings Entertainment Network, former player, former coach. Always good to kick some stuff around with him, so I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you guys will too. Not going to waste a ton more of your time. This is a conversation with Pete Bercich, previewing the Seahawks game, talking about this team overall, even some Kirk Cousins talk at the end. Let's not waste any more of your time. Thank you guys for being here. Here is Pete Bercich. Pete, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I told you before we started recording, I traversed the snow, and being from Alabama, it's just not really my deal.
Yeah, you learn to love it. You learn to embrace it, I guess, is what I've been told. I've lived in it my whole life, so it's funny you say that, but the older you get, the less fun it is.
I can imagine.
You know?
I can imagine. You know, we ESPN beat writer Kevin Seifert, he had a snow accident, I believe last year or so, and I just I don't envy. I don't know. I don't envy people having to shovel the yard, whatever people have to do.
Shovel the yard.
Yeah.
You are from Alabama. Shovel.
Yeah, I don't
shovel the yard.
I don't know how to say it. I'll ask you about Seattle first. Just the city and the road trip to Seattle. Like, where does the road trip to Seattle rank for you?
Right at the top, if not the top.
Why?
I love the Pacific Northwest. It's beautiful, especially if you go, let's say preseason in August or in September, because all the fruit and everything is ripened up, and then you can go down to the market and you can go buy a mango or a peach. It's like the size of your head, and then you just eat it. You just eat it right there. It's just a beautiful city. I mean, obviously, I've been out there around this time of year, and it's cloudy and rainy and whatnot. But the stadium is absolutely fantastic. You've worked there, so you know just the a lot of stadiums, just to get to where you need to go to do your job, is quite the walk. Or it's just it's just crazy, kind of like SoFi. You have no idea where you are. You're in a tunnel basically because everything's underground. Blah blah blah. You go to Seattle, you get to the top of the elevator in the press box, and then there's that window, that overlooks the field. And it's it's beautiful. It's outdoors. It's just one of my favorite places to go because you can just walk around. You can go down by the water, whatever. and I've always loved going to Seattle.
I can't wait to do it. To be
You've never
there.
been.
No, I've never.
You've never
No,
been. Oh, okay. So
no.
you okay? Yeah. So you'll have it's yeah, it's fantastic because you'll get in and you'll get to go up to you'll get your way to the press box, the elevator, right? And then that elevator is only for that press box. This is all kind of insider information
Yeah,
for
yeah.
those for everybody working.
Yeah. The
There's nothing
fans.
worse. There's nothing worse than being part of the working media and then having to, like in Kansas City, take elevators with fans. No offense to the fans. It's just, no, seriously, because your job is once the game's over to get down in the locker room as quickly as possible. And it's flooded with, you can't, the elevators don't
Can be
work
tough.
it's a hassle. It's, you're sweating bullets because you're just trying to do your job. In Seattle, it's just, everything's just laid out so nicely. And once you get up there, they have a Starbucks bar.
Oh wow.
So usually for PA and myself, we'll have about 8 or 10 Americanos in us before kickoff, right?
Sounds
So
about. Sounds
between
about
that and the Adderall and whatever else whatever else we can get our hands on, we're usually pretty fired up.
That's awesome. I mean, I don't know how much like prep you've done for this game. I got to be honest, I still haven't
Yeah.
watched the amount of film that I would like to ahead of it. I find this team very interesting. Like Mike McDonald,
Mm-hmm.
first year head coach, comes from the Baltimore Ravens kind of flavor of defense, was with Harbaugh, seems to be a very sharp guy, but it's obviously his first year. And then offensive coordinator is Ryan Grubb, who comes directly from college, was at Washington with Michael Penix. They really aired it out, and it feels like just paying attention a little bit. They've had a hard time kind of like finding an offensive identity. I think defensively they've struggled at times stopping the run. I just wonder if you've done any work on it. What have you thought just of this team? What do you think of this team? And what intrigues you maybe about this team as you think about this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, it's okay. So offensively, they're very timing and rhythm in a passing game. It's a lot of quick 3-step, 1-2-3 plant throw, short underneath. I'm impressed with the amount of how Jackson Smith and Jigba has worked his way into this offense because it's always been Metcalf and Lockett, right? Metcalf, Lockett, Metcalf, and now I'm looking at numbers for Smith and Jigba. He has 85 receptions, so he leads the team by 28 receptions.
That's wild.
So it's not a little bit. I mean, he's really the guy. So it's a lot of short underneath passing game, and with any of these guys, Metcalf, Lockett, they're going to make their completions, and it's going to be hard to get to Geno Smith on base downs because he's literally going to take the snap 1-2-3 plant throw 1-2-3 plant throw. So you have to tackle well because it's yards after catch is kind of what they're going after, and then they'll do their play action, take their shots. That's where getting as much pressure on Geno Smith as possible helps because he's not going to look down the field. Now, if he can scramble and buy himself some time, yeah, he can get down the field. I mean, I like Geno Smith. I think he does a pretty good job. But with his knee, it's the weirdest thing to come out of a game for miss almost half of a game and then not even show up on the injury report on a Wednesday. Yeah. That's a head scratcher to me. So what's going on there? I don't know. If Sam Howell gets in there, then you're looking at a short passing game with a quarterback who can't scramble and extend. So I think obviously that bodes well for us. Zach Charbonnet is a good running back. They like to run him outside, and with the problems that they have, and you're gonna. I don't have the names wrote yet. But Oluwatimi,
Sure.
Oluwatimi, their center came out during the game. So a guy named Jalen Sundell filled in for him, rookie from North Dakota State. Struggled, made some mental errors, but with him and then Laumea, the right guard, who's also a rookie.
You're doing a phenomenal job.
who started and was struggling. He's struggling now. My point is they've got some issues on the inside of their offensive line. So I think pulling guys, pinning and pulling, and getting guys on the outside plays well into what they want to do. I don't think Charbonnet is the best pass protector, so I expect us to push that button early and often. But Charbonnet's a good outside runner, and if he gets ahead of steam, he's a strider. He reminds me a lot of Robert Smith, even not just because he wears the same number, but if you get him a screen or get him in space and he can open up that stride, he's good. He's really good. He's not real shaky or a juke and jive kind of guy. He's a north and south type back. So, their running game's struggling right now, right? And that's mainly because of the pieces on the offensive line. So it's a solid offense. They put up a lot of points against Arizona, but Arizona basically spotted them 2 touchdowns early. And then Green Bay what's impressed me about Green Bay is how physical they are up front. Defensive line,
it just
offensive line.
leaps off the screen.
Yeah. So they're and so that's how we have to be with them. And I think defensively we could do it. So we'll see.
You mentioned, Charbonnet and running back pass pro, and it's kind of a good segue for me because I told you before we hopped on, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Vikings, struggling a little bit to stop the run the last 3 weeks. And I like the statistic that I noticed is the last 3 weeks, the Vikings are lowest rushing success rate in the NFL over the last 3 weeks. And obviously before that, they had been an exceptional run stopping unit. The Cardinals do it very differently. They're very counter based, vertical, hit you directly. That's their running style. The Falcons, obviously a very different running style. And then last week, I don't really know. The Bears they had a couple DJ Moore little outside runs. Some DeAndre Swift broke out a couple of times. But when I mentioned the running back pass pro, part of why I think the Vikings have been as good as they've been all year stopping the run, Ivan Pace, to me, I'm not sure he's the most, and you can speak on this way better than I can, just given your experience, but I'm not sure he's the most sound player. I don't know if he fits the exact gap that he always has to fit, but it feels like he just has a knack to find the ball, to dip under offensive linemen, and I think create sometimes negative runs. So I wanted to ask you how much you feel like not having him has played into kind of the run defense struggles, or what else you might be seeing in that regard.
Okay. I think he helps. There's no question that Ivan Pace helps. He has and this is on film when you saw him at Cincinnati. He just has a knack for finding the football, right? And he's very physical at the point of attack, so you're not getting yards after contact. So I think, so having him on the field helps. I think one of the biggest challenges is just exactly how do you replace Ivan Pace, right? Meaning, you get a little bit more out of Josh Metellus, and I think Josh Metellus is starting to play more and more like a linebacker. Meaning, he's starting to read guard pulls and do all these things. He's, everyone says he's versatile, but it's very, very difficult for a safety or a defensive back to move to 3-4 yards behind the offensive line and be able to read and see and get himself in the right spot. So I think, we've seen a hodgepodge of Camus, Grugier Hill, Josh Metellus,
Jamin Davis.
Jamin Davis. Yeah. And then, he's more, I think you've seen him a little bit more in third downs. Even at times, Andrew Van Ginkel off the ball. So it's I think that's the big kind of with concerning Pace. That's the big thing is, do we just go big nickel and let Metellus do it? And I think by down and distance and personnel, they've tried to overcome that a little bit with personnel. I think the other big part about playing the run is just our defensive line playing on their side of the line of scrimmage. And especially against Atlanta, I don't think Bullard, Phillips, Tillery, Redmond got in there and he's showing some juice, and I think that's why he's getting more playing time. But just the ability, especially on a zone, because when you're facing a zone running team, they literally snap the ball and then everybody in front of you either turns and runs to the left or turns and runs to the right. So you have to, unless you're slanting or whatever, you have to read that and then try to work your way
Yeah.
across the face of an offensive lineman all the time while you're running sideways and not giving up any yardage, right? Because if the back end of that zone, those guys start giving up yardage, now all of a sudden you've got that wall that's created that allows the cutbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to play better with our front three, and better I mean capture the line of scrimmage, and we did a better job of that against the Bears.
Thought so
And
too.
hopefully against Seattle that we could do the same. Although they're like we said before, a lot more of an outside run team, which I think bodes a little bit better for us just because of the way that Grenard Van Ginkel can play the run. That's our answer to the outside run. It's just Grenard and Van Ginkel. Dallas Turner's getting better. Pat Jones. Those guys are very good at shoring up the outside. You're going to cut that corner off. You're not going to have any softness in it. And that's the big thing with this defense, especially against the run, is just you can't have any softness at any point. You can't have an outside linebacker get pushed even a yard or two wider, because that opens up creases on the cutback. If the defensive line to stay in their gap has to give up a yard or two, you can just picture it in your head. You're a running back moving to your right, and you just feel that flow. Everything's collapsing down.
Sure.
And you just cut back, and that's the old ride the wave, right? So against Atlanta, we didn't play on their side of the line of scrimmage as much as we had in the past. Better against the Bears. We'll see how it goes against Seattle, but yeah, that's a concern. Harrison Phillips, a lot of snaps this year.
That's
Right?
kind of
Jonathan Bullard, a lot of
yeah.
snaps this year. Tillery, and that's why it's so great to have Redmond get some plays. It'd be nice to see if Drake Rodriguez could get in there and get some juice late in the season. That's going to be the key right there.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to make it seem like losing Taki Taimani to injury was like, but you do I kind of wonder like if he had been healthy through his stretch, just to take some snaps off of some of those other guys, like would they be better off? And I believe Kevin O'Connell talked earlier this week, or maybe last, and he hinted at the idea that Taki might come back. So just another guy, an undrafted guy like Redmond. That's interesting. But I'm glad you.
Right.
I mean, you said it is. I mean, I know you said it's a concern, and I think I agree with you that they look better in Chicago. But I do think, like, for this defense to maximize, and especially with, I mean, the teams that they will face down the stretch in Green Bay and Detroit. Like, I mean, Green Bay's physicality to just get beat off the line of scrimmage defensively against that team and against Josh Jacobs, like, to me, that feels like, yeah.
Right. And you look at Green Bay, it's like, okay, first quarter, they run the ball. Right? How many times if you turn on the film in that first drive, it's 60%, 70% run.
Yeah.
It's just run, touchdown. They go up 7-0. And then, second, third quarter, they kind of dink around with it. And then to finish the team off at the end, they just keep handing the ball off. I mean, it's their MO. And so, yeah, I mean, getting Green Bay at home, you have crowd noise, you have some other stuff that's going to help as well. And again, we bring these things up just as this is what needs to improve, right? It's not being critical. It's not it's not any of that. It's again, that's what you do as a coach. You sit there and say, what do we need to do better? Why are we giving up so many yards on the ground? Well, there's a lot of reasons for it. Just because teams are sticking with the run. Atlanta was, they ran the ball well. They're a really good outside zone team. They have a very good running back. Not every team is going to be able to do that every week. I don't think Seattle's built for that.
Right.
And so it'll be a better matchup this week in that regard. But you still have concerns, and that's what they have to do to get better. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, I think like, and the people listening to this, just like us, it's like you want to be able to get to the mountaintop, and to be able to do that, you have to mitigate some of the concerns. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
worth talking about it. I guess in that vein, I'll segue, and then we'll hit at the end. We'll be flowery at the end, but I just wonder
Oh,
where your I wonder where your head is at in terms of the interior of the offensive line, and just because I mean I had Lieber on last week and we were just talking about the trenches and how important like he feels like that's going to be down the stretch. And I was running through earlier today. I'm like, these NFC playoff teams, they all have beasts on the interior. The Commanders, it's Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. The Rams, it's Braden Fisk, it's Kobe Turner. The Eagles, it's
huh.
Jalen Carter, Milton Williams. I mean, it like
Everybody's
all
everybody's
yeah,
everybody's going to be good.
right. And so I do feel like,
Yeah.
especially the last 3 weeks, if the Cardinals, the Falcons, even last week against the Bears, pass protection was maybe more of a concern than it felt like it was maybe in the earlier part of the year. Now, obviously, that Christian Darrisaw's being healthy, that plays a role in it. But I just wondered the
Yeah.
interior, how you've thought about the last 3 games, how they've looked, and how you kind of project
Yeah.
forward with that group.
Um, we had my God, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember if it was 2 weeks ago, um, where we saw Bradbury get beat. Oh, it was against the Bears. Bradbury got beat one on one, and then O'Neal got beat one on one, and that's been rare, right? I think for Bradbury to play at his best, he really needs Blake Brandel. He needs physical guards next to him.
Mm-hmm.
Brandel can provide that. Reisner is he's going to give you everything he's got, right? And so I think that helps, but we need the best out of those guys that we can get. We need those guys playing um, as well as we can. That's why for O'Neal, you need him to be healthy, right? You need him to be healthy. So yeah, you're gonna get. I mean, you're gonna get the best of the best. I think Arizona got us a little bit because they delayed blitz some of their linebackers that put our running backs in pass pro. That's another thing that you want to see get better. You're seeing CJ Ham in there at key times, especially in third and medium, third and long, just for that reason, just for
Mm-hmm.
protection. Because if we can block everything up, that's a key. I think with the Seattle game is just how well can we block up the 4-man rush, because they don't blitz a ton, and if we can give Darnold time, there will be openings down the field. So holding up on the 4-man rush is going to be key, um, especially with Derek Hall and Draymond Jones, who it's like they play a 4-man type of a front, but their ends are kind of like outside linebackers, and they're very straight line fast, good pass rushers. If you just let them line up and rush,
Mm-hmm.
they're really good. They're really good. So we need a lot out of our tight ends, especially Josh Oliver, when we run the ball to beat those guys up. Um, just get after him. Nuosu, get after him. Um, Boye Mafe, just be physical with those outside linebackers and take the edge off of them, with their ability to pass rush. And that's what the run really does. That's why I like time of possession. With this team, I think time of possession is very, very important. Um,
You're talking about against the Seahawks. Or are
well,
you
just
talking about with the Vikings?
I'm saying with this team in general.
Oh, okay, okay.
I bring up time of possession more and have more this year, I think, than especially in the last 4 or 5 games than in the past, only
Huh.
because when our defense is on the field for a long time, that's when losing line, you start seeing the losing the line of scrimmage and some of the physicality go away just because, or you're seeing, the 4 minute bit where you have 8-10 minutes left to go, like we saw against the Bears, and you have Jihad Ward playing three technique or nose tackle. right? Because we just don't have a lot of depth, and so teams can just run the football. It's like,
Yeah.
well, we don't, we have Pat Jones. You remember last year when Philadelphia ran the ball up and down the field on us?
I'll
Well, we
never
had Pat
forget
Jones
it.
play. We had Pat Jones playing nose tackle. It's like he's not a nose tackle, but we didn't have anybody else to put in there. So time of possession is very important just for this team if we can keep it balanced. And then against Seattle, I think defensively they're very inconsistent, right? Leonard Williams can be unstoppable
Mm-hmm.
when he wants to be. Byron Murphy's same thing. But they're very inconsistent with their effort, which is interesting. And it's kind of like even against Green Bay, they tightened things up. Even though they were on the field and they gave up a lot in the running game, they tightened it up
Definitely.
in the third quarter. So you got to kind of beat it out of them, right? Meaning you got to run the football and take that edge off of them. If we just let them line up and rush the passer, they can be very, very good. John Reed, right? But you get running the football and you can start moving guys like, Roy Robertson Harris and Hankins and some of these other guys. Yeah, there's some, if those are the guys rushing the passer in the fourth quarter and we've had the ball for, almost more than half the game, you're going to have time with Darnold. You're going to be able to get the ball down the field. If we've had the ball for 15 of 40 minutes, or whatever, going into that, those guys are going to have a lot of juice still. And so that's just something with this team. Because I know you've talked about it a lot, kind of comparing this team to, others in the past and
Sure.
everything else. I think with this team, that's so important. Is if we're not going to win in possession, we need to be scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
And get in the lead, and then we can work around that, and then tighten up in the red zone, that kind of thing. But yeah, we can't have our defense on the field a ton this week against Seattle, because I think it cuts both ways with just what we're kind of not struggling with per se, but not our super strength on defense. And then right now at this moment in time, and then their defense as well. You want those guys to be out there as long as you can.
And it's a short week too, so for me, it's like you compile the amount of
Way
snaps.
To be negative.
No, yeah, no, it
Now you got to bring that up next week when we play the Packers and say, well, they're going on a short week,
yeah.
right?
No, and I'll do it. No,
I know you will.
My other fascination too with this game and the Vikings offense against the Seahawks defense is like I those corners for Seattle, Witherspoon, Tyreek Woolen, like big physical. I just want to see how they try to. I mean, it's every week, as you know this. Like I'm fascinated by how these teams try to defend Justin, but I do feel like in some ways when teams have had success against the Vikings and against Justin Jefferson, it has been physical. It's obviously been multiple defenders, but how they kind of how the Vikings counteract whatever Seattle does, that to me is going to be interesting. Just knowing kind of I like these corners, like I just do. So
yeah, I think Reek Wallen is a little bit more inconsistent. They've been penalized quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right. I think they get a little. They drift, and I think Kobe Bryant's another guy who drifts a little bit. He doesn't keep his eyes where it's supposed to be. I mean, he gave up a really bad touchdown against Arizona. Julian Love is much more consistent, so I think they're going to count on Julian Love to be more part of the combination that slows down JJ. But yeah, Witherspoon is a nickel, very, very good. I'm surprised they don't play more man to man than they do. But I think that's just part of their DNA
system,
playing zone and that sort of thing. So yeah, it'll be another week of trying to attack the middle of the field. I hope they do so more with Hawkinson. Yeah, if you give Darnold time, and we can get some of these more down the field type plays, because what happens is on the defense you get into a rhythm where if it's and that's what you got to be careful of with Seattle, because so much of what they do is 1, 2, 3, plant, throw, 5 out, quick throw, boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden they hit you with a 7 or a long, they block somebody up and they hit you with a longer. And then because the DBs, they get in that rhythm of jumping stuff, jumping stuff, jumping stuff. And then you dangle a little in route right in front of them. They jump it. And then there's
Double
something
move.
coming in behind,
Yeah.
right? There's something coming in behind you. So yeah, I mean, it's, looking at my notes, they started the zone blitz a lot. More so against Green Bay to stop the run than anything else. But they play too deep. I don't know. Any team that plays a lot of 3 deep, you're not going to see it against JJ as much. But they will play man. They will play man as well. I think they can do that. And with like that group that you just talked about, I'm surprised they don't do it more.
Yeah, no, there's no. It's an interesting point. All right, this is the flowery portion that I was talking about. Last time, you and I talked maybe a month ago, and I think it was right after the Jacksonville game, and Sam Darnold. That was obviously probably the low point, and since then it's been the Sam Darnold experience. I just like, what have you thought of what you've seen from him since that point of late? I didn't think Monday night was his best performance, but how have you thought about how good he's been of late?
What's been good, and it's hard to say it, but where he's been getting better, I think, is just when things aren't there, to get rid of the football, when he's under pressure, not trying to make too much happen, right, and just kind of hang in there early, right? You just hang in there early in the fourth quarter. The pass rush isn't as tenacious as it was in the beginning, and then you have some better opportunities, to do those things. So I just think he's managed himself a lot better as far as that goes, and making decisions, and when things aren't there, don't force it, protecting the football more. The interception against Chicago, I just think he literally just said, you know what, it's fourth down, I'm throwing a 50-50 ball. He wasn't able to thread the needle as much against the Bears as he was, maybe a few weeks before. Yeah, I think he's just more comfortable making better decisions, not trying to force stuff. And I think that's been the big thing, for him is just patience.
Yeah. Last time we talked a lot about Brian Flores and kind of like his value with this team. I don't know how much Kevin O'Connell we've talked. I know you spent time with Kevin. You guys do the film breakdowns, that type of thing. I just wonder, as a guy who coached, as a guy who played, like as someone who's been around this league as long as you have, like what you've thought of Kevin, what separates him, what impresses you most about him as you've gotten to know him, and as you just have watched both this year and really the last 3 years.
Oh man, there's a lot there. We're a very vertical passing team, right? We're not a 3-step and get the ball out quick underneath. We don't do that. We get the ball down the field. We're aggressive down the field. I'm impressed with the amount of versatility that's built in to what we do. And so adjustments are so very important. It's a very flexible system where you can make adjustments with routes and with different things depending on how what looks you're getting. And the problem you have is teams don't come out and play what they show on tape because of JJ. So there's like this built-in adjustment period that you have. He's, as a leader, as a guy you want to play for, unbelievable, right? All those things. I think he has an inherent ability to take very complex things and then deliver them in a very simple way. That's the film side of it. We saw that with just his ability to get to the essence of a player. This is what this guy does well. This is what we look for. And then taking complicated ideas and just making them very simple, because you have to. That's kind of a secret of coaching, is the game on certain levels can be very complex, but
Yeah.
as a player, you can't carry all that in your head because you're on the field. So you have to make things simple. If you see this, then you get that, right? And just beat that into their heads, and that's what you can really carry with you on the field. And I think he's been able to do that as well. So um, yeah, those guys are all lucky to be playing for him, no question about it.
The thing you said there, and I've tried to get it across and talk about it in writing and on the podcast, is like the adjustment period with like Justin Jefferson, like the staff plans all week, looks at what the opposing defense does. And then because it's Justin and because he's such a dynamic player, defenses do things that you would never have seen on tape. And then you have to adapt on the fly. And like I've tried to explain that, I've tried to talk about it, but that to me,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like more time navigating that challenge, the better they've gotten at it, the better they will continue to get at
Yeah,
it.
right.
But and even their ability to do it to this point, like I think that is, and with Flores, I think it's similar. It's like I think that's such an underrated part of why these guys have been as good as they've been. It's just that the
Yeah,
ability to adapt on the fly.
right. And I think for Flores, we had a interesting talk with him preseason, where he's like, yeah, you don't really know who you have till about 3-4 weeks into the season, right? But it's the concept of, you have two ways of looking at it. One is, this is my system, and we need to find guys who fit it. Or you say, these are the guys that I have, let's build a system around them. And so I think defensively, that's what we've done, because a lot is similar to a year ago, but a lot has changed. It's not the same defense that we played a year ago.
Right.
Nowhere near the amount of zero, nowhere near,
Drop eight.
we're much less aggressive up front. And, offensively, yeah, you have to be creative, you have to be flexible. And, they've been able to do that all the while. You don't know what you're getting out of your quarterback. You have no idea. You had no idea going into the season what Darnold is going to be really good at. So I think as the season's gone on, they've discovered what they can get out of Darnold, what he does consistently well, what can they count on, and then that's what you build a game plan around. So challenging on both ends. And I just remember Scott Linehan talking about, he's like, I don't even know why we watch film, because they do everything differently to stop Randy Moss. And you're kind of getting the same thing here.
Yeah. So interesting. And I think, like, too, with the vertical passing game, like when you have Justin Jefferson and maybe his best skill set is be able to run routes vertically downfield, like that's how you're going to build the offense. Like that's like if you,
Yeah.
again, so no, it makes sense. The last thing, and I'll get you out of here. I haven't talked
All right.
much about the Kirk situation. I know I don't know how much you've watched him, but I just wonder what you've thought about. I mean, this guy's been, yeah.
Yeah. Kirk struggled. I don't think he is as bad as the numbers. Like, he had those 3 interceptions the week before we played him, or 4, I can't remember. None of them were, well, one of them was kind of, but it was a 4th down. He was just trying to make something. My point is, he wasn't awful, right? He just wasn't awful. And I don't know if they had a plan for him, or built a system for him. And so it's sometimes for coaches, it's easier to just say, "Hey, we'll make a change, right? We're just gonna make a change." So yeah, and then you take a step, you step up a level, and you're like, "Oh my God, you made this financial commitment, and you're already, then you make that move in the draft, and now you're going to go toward that." It just doesn't make a lot of sense, because they didn't pay him to be a stopgap. They didn't pay him to be a mentor. They paid him to win, to be the man and build something around and win games. And they're abandoning that already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, it's just one of those things. You're like, when they drafted him, everyone's scratching their head, going, "Wait, what did they just do?" And and yeah, it just doesn't. I don't know what the plan really was.
Well, I mean, and like I said, I haven't talked about it. So I guess my thoughts, I tweeted this, but it's hard for me to understand. Like last year when Kirk was healthy, the Vikings were 31.4% play action drop back. That was
Mm-hmm.
first in the NFL. This year, 13.8% play action drop back in Atlanta, which is 32nd in
Mm-hmm.
the NFL. So literally the most play action, and then now the least. And I don't like my question externally, and I haven't even heard this asked, is like, is that because he can't move enough to even run play action? Or is that because that you didn't build the system knowing that this is a guy who thrives off play action? I can't
Right.
understand that aspect. I like Michael Penix, but then to your exact point, like if that's going to be your guy, just pay Justin Fields $4 million or something,
Right.
and
Right.
have a system that makes more sense from a college standpoint for them. It
Mm-hmm.
is very hard to understand, but
And yeah, and
yeah.
they knew they were going to be drafting highly. They knew that they were going to have the opportunity to pick up one of these quarterbacks. So it wasn't as if, you know what I mean? So you're like, well, that wasn't the plan going into the draft.
And then
I
2
mean,
years of
was
the
it?
rookie quarterback contract are now clouded by, which is part of the reason you even draft a quarterback, is the benefits you gain
Right.
roster building wise. Then they don't
Yeah.
have that this year. Next year,
Yeah.
whether Kirk's on the team or not, there's going to be like a $30 million dead cap. So it's like you're paying a guy. It's just,
Yeah. And the guy you drafted is 27 years old. It's like you had a 21-year-old sitting right there. You could have
yeah,
taken him, but I
it's,
don't know.
yeah.
So not my problem. Not my problem.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. Right.
There's no
So
doubt. I'm looking
yeah,
forward to Seattle in the coffee bar. I didn't know that was a
you're gonna love it.
thing.
It's the
Yeah.
best ever. The
Yeah.
weather may not be great, but it's just awesome. I love
Yeah.
that place.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Beautiful. It's a
it
beautiful
should be
city.
fun. Thank you for
Thank you,
doing this
man.
as always. We will talk soon. Always fun.
Always fun. Thanks. See you.
And that'll do it for episode 43 of the Alec Lewis Show. Appreciate you guys being here. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Pete Bercich. Always fun to talk ball with Pete. I enjoy it. I hope you guys have as much fun listening as I do, just learning from him, hearing him talk the game. I'm grateful for it, grateful for his time. But yeah, that will do it. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button down below. If you're watching on YouTube, like I said at the top, if it's Apple, Spotify, iHeart, you can follow us over there. That helps us out. Would appreciate that. Also, go check out some of the stories written recently over at The Athletic, theathletic.com. We will be back early next week after a quick trip to Seattle. Like I said on the pod, I can't wait to get up there, have some coffee, look at the rain. Maybe get a Seahawk. Maybe get a Sonics hoodie or something. Always kind of been fascinated by the Sonics. Obviously not the Seahawks, but the Sonics. So, yeah, it should be fun. Can't wait to tell you guys about the trip a little bit next week and get into how this team kind of travels and is looking to finish down the stretch against two really good NFC North teams. If I don't talk to you guys until then, have a great holiday. Enjoy Christmas, and we will talk to you guys soon. Episode 43. Appreciate you guys being here.